about your mindset, and kind of training it in a way to benefit you.
Yeah. Do you think the entertainment industry has this like behind the scenes of like drugs or this socializing of you have to have a drink at an after party, or like does it have that sort of stigma behind it as well? So do you have that peer pressure, shall I say, you know?
I don't know if it's I wouldn't call it peer pressure. I just think it just comes with the industry.
Mhm.
It's a social thing. Being in the music world, everyone seems to drink. Being in you know certain businesses, it's like, okay, let's go for lunch,
Yeah.
right? And it's a liquid lunch, right? And that then will can transpire or spiral into whatever. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You might
Yeah.
go for a lunch and then your afternoon's now gone off because
Yeah.
you've had a few beers, you've
Yeah.
connected with this person. And you're like, oh, it doesn't matter, we can go to work tomorrow. We can come back to that tomorrow. Let's just carry on drinking.
Yeah.
And I think that's everyone's and every individual's choice, right? That they make. But yes, it is out there. To answer the question in a nutshell, it's heavily out there and it's heavily available, readily available. But then it all depends on whether you want to partake or not.
So here's one. I used to work in banking, for example,
Mm.
and the people who normally got the promotions are the ones who were hanging out with the bosses. And it's a Friday night. Come on, we're all going down to the pub. I'd sometimes go, but I always had a weekend job, so I
Mm.
wanted to come away from it.
Yeah.
So because I wasn't associating, all of a sudden. Monday morning, everybody be vibing. Do you remember what happened Friday? Oh, we had a brilliant time. Oh, hi, Sean. Like sort of thing. And it's just like, hey, I want to be part of that. I don't want to drink with you guys.
Mm.
So, how do you sort of say no, but still sort of stay relevant, when you're in that sort of environment?
I think now it's because I've been in it for long enough. I've been in it for 2 decades. So
Mhm.
I've been there, done it.
Mhm.
Spent my 20s and 30s doing it,
Mhm.
and now I've grown out of it.
Mhm.
I've just had enough. And I said, nah, I'm done. I'm good. But don't get me wrong, it wasn't as easy as that.
Mhm.
It was a struggle. I've been trying to stop drinking from 2013.
Wow.
That's 11 years, right? So it was always in my head that, I want to consciously make an effort to cut down or stop. And in 2013, I did on self will, I stopped drinking completely and just knocked everything on the head. And then after that year, it was like, okay, I can do this.
Mhm.
I'm not that bad. I've got control. So then I went back out, right? And it wasn't like a thing that I was doing forever. I wasn't going to give up forever at that point. But that's where the actual seed got planted that,
Mhm.
okay, you know what? What a great year you had not drinking.
Mhm.
That's a vibe.
Mhm.
But then I got back in it and I was in the midst of it again. And then you kind of like, you just don't think about coming off or whatever, things change and you're back in the party scene and you're back on the vibe and traveling and everywhere you go it's like, Budgie, what do you want?
Yeah.
And what can we get you? And but now it's not like that, man. I made a conscious decision on October the 15th 2021 that I'll never drink again.
Mhm.
And I admitted myself into AA. And that for me was my turning point because I'd done AA before for a year and then I thought I'd cracked it and I thought, yeah, I can do
Mhm.
this again. I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
I've got control.
And what
Um,
is AA?
Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay.
So
So how
a
does that
lot of
work?
people, even myself, I didn't even know what it was
Mhm.
until my friends recommended it to me and they said, bro, you need to chill out, man. Like you going hard,
Mhm.
and it's not a good look.
So how was you performing?
I never drank before I went on stage,
Right.
so I had some discipline.
Yes.
So my thing was that before I go on stage, I don't have a drop, but after we party, and it could be that we don't even. No, it wasn't that. It could be. There was a rule that we don't party at the venue where we're performing. We might have one drink just to be nice, just
Loosen
to
yourself up.
socialize, loosen up a bit, have a beer
Yeah.
with the promoter.
Yeah.
Thank you, nice one. Have the beer and exit,
Yeah.
and that gives you that a little bit more star quality, a bit more respect. They
Yeah.
think, yeah, guy came in, he smashed it, he left.
100.
And that gives you that, you know what I mean? Like, okay, I want to book this guy. Because if you come there and then you're like, you know, all over the shop and you're smashed and, you know, you're talking crap, people are going to look at you like, okay, I'm not, you know, you can leave a bad taste in people's minds. You know what I mean? And that can result in them not booking you again. And that's my bread and butter.
Yeah.
You know, if I upset my promoter, he's going to tell 3 other promoters. So the work starts slowing down. You know what I mean? So you got to stay on top, at least in that way, that you make sure that you're doing things but you're still working and you're still working smart. You know what I mean? So that's what I did. I just never took a drop of alcohol before I went on stage, but I did. I partied hard, you know, to the point where it was like almost like, you know, burning the candle at both ends, which is not always a good look, you know. But it's not like that.
A situation I was faced with when I was competing, I stayed off alcohol for a certain
Competing
period in men's physique.
Oh
Yeah,
wow!
so I
Okay.
did a bodybuilding back in 2019.
Oh, brilliant!
But that was just a challenge because I was always fat boy,
Right?
And it was always I was fat boy until I stupidly had to get on stage in front of 700 people to perform this routine that took me like 3 years to like bulk up and then shred and stuff. So I started sort of doing this bodybuilding, and obviously there's a lot of calories in drink. And so I used to, in our Sikh community, we go around people's houses and the first thing they're saying, "Botal kholi," you know, what you having? Vodka, whiskey, what kind of guy you are? And all of a sudden when I'm like, I don't drink, everyone's like, huh? What do you mean you don't drink?
Yeah.
Come on, Kushbila, you know, have something to drink. And I'm like, nah, seriously, I'm good. And then they'll ask you 10 times. And you're just like, I feel like giving in now. Oh, go on, just one. What's one? But you know,
It's never one.
if you bust the seal on one, and they've got the in as well, they go, now that's it, you've had one now, you might as well have more. There's a lot of family pressure as well.
Yes,
like
there is,
and this sort of culture of you have to have a drink. If you don't drink, you're not fun. You're not part of us. Have I upset you? That's why you don't have a drink with me. You know.
That's when they've had a few. It gets to that stage then, doesn't it? Yeah. You don't like me, do you?
Yeah. What I'm saying is, how do you say no in a respectful way? How do we move away from that?
You know what? No, I mean, again, I think it comes down to age and stuff like that, and you know what you've been through and stuff. And because, like I said, I mean, I have drank with all my friends, all family, and you know, I've been the heart and soul of the party. And it comes a stage where when you say no, they have to respect that, and they respect it because they've had a drink with you before, and they've probably heard and seen what you've been through. You know, I've had as so many of you that are watching have probably had as well, many ups and downs in your life, right? We all go through them. And when people see that and then you tell them, no, I don't drink, they respect that, you know? And I think that's the stage I'm at right now. You might not be at that same stage. Somebody might, you know, be still pressurizing you to have a drink. But I mean, I guess you then just got to kind of disassociate with with them people for a while, just so that they can, you know, they realize that, you know what, you don't put yourself in those circles anymore because you're doing other things, and then they have a different level of respect for you. They won't even ask you. They won't forget pressurizing you. They won't even ask you to have a drink because they know that, nah, you know, this guy, he's disciplined, man. And sometimes they want you to drink because they want to drink, you know, and they just want someone to drink with.
They want company.
They want company, you know. So yeah, man. I mean, you know, each to their own, man. Each to their own. I don't preach to anybody, even though I'm nearly 3 years sober. I don't say to anyone, "Oh, you shouldn't drink," and "Oh, you should be like me." I never do that, man, because you know everyone's on their own journey. You know what I mean? And if they're okay with drinking, then that's cool. You know, that's cool with me. But for me, I know if I go to places, they'll say, "Oh, what would you like to drink? Can I get you a mocktail? Can I get you a cocktail, a beer?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm allergic to that stuff." You know, I make fun of it now.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm comfortable with that. You know, and people that I sit with and my mates, my best mates, they all still drink.
Yeah.
And we'll go out for a meal and we'll sit down and they'll order beer and I'll have a Diet Coke. You know, and we're cool. We still have a laugh. We still have fun. We still chat the same chat. You know, we still talk about the same things. There's no difference. And that's the real ones. Those are the ones you want to sit with that respect you for who you are and not for what you're putting down your mouth. You know what I mean?
Have you had to leave people behind?
No, I just had to change my surroundings. I didn't have to leave. I guess, you know what, I suppose I did certain people, that were doing things that I no longer wanted to partake in, and I
Yeah.
was like, you know what, okay, I just can't be around those people.
Hmm.
Or if I was with them, I'd be with them early on in the evening. But then when I can see that, okay, right now it's got to a point where now things are going to go to escalate to a different stage, I know when to exit because I was part of that before,
Yeah.
so I can see it all happening and
Yeah.
unfolding around me. And
Right.
now I just, vacate and I just leave. I just, and that is just, you just got to be more aware of your own surroundings. Don't worry about what's going on, and they're not
Hmm.
going to miss it. If you actually exit, and after about 5 minutes they'll be like, "Where's he gone?" And that's it, because they're going to be too busy in what they're doing anyway.
Yes,
So
it's
you've
true.
got yourself out of that situation, where you were feeling a little bit vulnerable, and you might think, okay, for me now, I call it a relapse. If I pick up a drink, I've relapsed. I can't relapse. You
Mm.
know what I mean? So I've got the AA app on my phone. I'm still counting days.
Right.
I'll open it up for you now.
Uh-huh.
And right now, today, I'm on 1,033 days sober.
Wow.
So I don't know if you guys can see that, but and yeah, and I'm proud of that,
Yeah.
and I'm helping other people now that um are struggling with alcohol,
Hmm.
with substances, with smoking. I've opened a luxury rehab center in Delhi,
Wow.
in India,
Wow.
which is to help people, with a battle against drink and drugs.
How do people find out about that?
It's on my website, Hope. We've got a website called Hope Rehabs,
Okay.
.co.uk, and we're based out in India. Me and my partner, we run that, and he's also on a sobriety journey. His sobriety journey is inspired by my journey,
Wow.
and together we've opened this rehab center. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a luxury rehab center because rehab here in the UK is they have a lot of big waiting lists here as well. It's not cheap, but it's a great place to start for a lot of people go in recovery. A lot of people do use recovery centers because sometimes they need to step away from their situation. They find it very difficult to try and give up on their doorstep. And they need to detach themselves and they check themselves into a rehab center. Ours is one step further. You need to relocate. You need to get away from everything and
Hmm.
everyone,
Mm.
even your family, your immediate family, your wife, your kids, because you're now in that much of a deep situation. So we've got that facility there. So yeah, if you know anyone, then please do mention it to them. Go check it out. But we also want to open one in Punjab because Punjab is a big problem. But that one we're trying to open as a self-funded
Hmm.
one. So because we know that there's a lot of issues with drink and drugs in
A lot of
India, in
drugs.
Punjab,
Yeah.
that not everybody can afford to go to a luxury rehab center. And we want to try and just get people in there, which is self-funded. And we're working on that to get other funding as well from other avenues and government and stuff like that. That's something that is in the pipeline,
Hmm.
but that will be completely free for the actual client. We'll be able to get them in there, try and give them a detox for a month, give them another month clean and sober, and 8 weeks under their belt, and then put them back into their comfort zone with their family, where it's now a better place to be, and they can kind of try and provide for them rather than taking away from them.
Hmm.
So
If
that's what we're trying
somebody's
to
at
do.
a place right now, maybe
Yeah,
they're not ready for AA and they think, I don't really actually have much of a problem. Maybe I do have a couple too many.
yeah.
What are just three tips off the top of your head that you would give a little bit of advice and go, make sure you're mindful or do these three things?
Do you know what it is? I don't even think it goes as far as three. I can tell you that in one. Um, the only thing that anybody needs to recognize if they have a problem is just to admit it to themselves.
Hmm.
And if you admit that you have a problem, that's the first step
Hmm.
to you needing to do something about it. Because until you don't admit you've got a problem, how can you make any changes to it, right?
People are afraid.
But then that part,
Yeah.
that getting over the fear to admit it,
Hmm.
right?
People are afraid of failure. They're afraid of being a failure.
Yeah,
They fail embarrassed.
yeah. Again, what I would say is um, that admitting that you have a problem is not a weakness; it's a strength. So all of those other things are part of you then still coming to that pinnacle point of going, yes, I have a problem, and admitting it. Because the moment you admit something, that's when you can make a change to it, right?
Hmm.
And until you don't admit, if you think, yeah, nah, I'm all right, I only have a few, I'm okay, it's cool. But then you know what? When you stand and look in the mirror and you look at that guy and you go, you know what, man, I need to do something about this. I've actually got a problem. That's the point where you can go, well, now I can do something about it because I've just admitted it to myself. And you know, all of those things that you said, those are natural. Those are natural things to occur with anyone. I've just been on the phone. On the way here, I was on the phone to somebody who had all of those things going on. Bro, I'm scared. I know I've got a problem. I know I need help. I saw your podcast. I did a podcast not so long ago, right? Last year we did it. It just came out recently.
Okay.
And a lot of people have been watching that. And they're saying, bro, that resonated with me so much. Like the things that you said ticked every box of mine. And I just wanted to reach out to you. And I said, yeah. He said, but, and in the end, he was like, you know, thank you so much. I owe you one. I said, nah, man, you don't owe me nothing. I said, he goes, no, but your time. I said, nah. I said, you know what you've just done there has made me stronger. By me talking to you has given me another day of sobriety, because now that conversation has given me strength, you know, because not sounding in a bad way, but I don't want to be back in that place where that guy is. That guy is broken. He's at rock bottom, you know. I was there one day. And when you're at rock bottom, man, that's when you know that you need to do something about it. So fear, anxiety, all of that, pride, that will all come in front of it, but it all gets taken away when you go, I've got a problem, I need to do something about it. That is the first step of recovery.
How do you deal with failure?
You know what? It's all part of life, man. It's about how you come back from it. Everybody has to fail to come back stronger. That's how I see it. You know, failure is not a bad thing. Failure makes you the person you are. I am who I am today because of all the things that I failed at. You know, all my ups and downs that I had has made me the guy that I am. And I believe that I'm probably not. And you can never say, I think it'll be too overconfident to say I'm 100% perfect. No one's perfect. You know, nobody can ever be perfect. But I'm the best version of myself today. I can confidently say that, you know, I am really working hard on becoming a better person every day. I can always do something a little bit better than I did yesterday. Do you know what I mean? And failure is all part of that, man. It's all part of it. We have to fail. It's part of it. You know, my kids, I got 3 kids, and I say to them, listen, don't worry about it. I said, if you can't do something, don't say, like, they'll watch something, right? And they'll say, oh, I wish I could do that. And I'll stop them and I say, no, don't say, I wish I could do that. Say, how can I do that? There's a difference. It's about training your mind, you know what I'm saying?
100.
And failure isn't failure, man. Failure is part of the process of getting better. That's all it is.
Absolutely. How is your faith? What do you believe in?
I'm spiritual.
Okay.
Yeah,
What does
yeah.
that mean?
I'm very spiritual, connected. I'm obviously, as you can see, I'm Sikh, but I'm not a baptized Sikh, right? So I'm not religious. I don't wear a bug. I don't have gish. I don't have a kirpan. So that is a baptized Sikh, right? But I pray. I have a higher power. My Vaheguru is my higher power.
Yeah.
I do my part. I do a gratitude list, you know, and that is me spiritually connecting to my higher power. For me, my higher power is Vaheguru, is God, right? But for some people, their higher power could be anything. It could be a passed away grandparent. That could be their higher power. That could be their guardian angel. That it could be anything. Do you know what I mean?
Have you done any like pilgrimages?
Yes, I have done pilgrimage. I went to Himkond Sahib in 2000.
Okay, educate me because I don't know about this place.
Okay, so Himkond Sahib is it's a Sikh temple, which is in I believe it's in, I think if I'm remember correctly, it's in Uttar Pradesh, right? And it's 18,000 feet above sea level. It's in the mountains, and it's a 3-day pilgrimage. It takes 3 days to get there, and this is where Guru Gobind Singh Ji did his tapasya. And it's a very, very sacred and holy place. They have 5 Nishan Sahib on the mountain tops. You're very lucky if you can see them all on the same day.
So Nishan Sahib is our holy flag.
Yeah, and Nishan Sahib is a flag which you'll see at every Sikh temple, which is in orange, in the color of orange. And so they have 5 of those around there. There's a temple there, and it's like it's always covered in snow. The paths have to be cleared. There's certain times a year where you can't even actually get up there. But it's all done from seva. There's no it's all just community seva. And
What does seva mean?
Seva is charity. selfless charity, basically, where you give without, any reward. And it was a beautiful experience. I went with my parents, and I actually came back from that pilgrimage, and I said to my mum at that time, I said, "Mum, मैं अमृत छकना." And Amrit Chakra means that I want to become a baptized Sikh. And she was like, it's that's giving me goosebumps now that I just said that, because I'm spiritually connected and I feel this connection with God. There is something within me. And even like being able to give up alcohol and substances and stuff like that, I believe that's not just me, that's God giving me the power to do it, because not everybody makes it back into recovery. Not everybody gets the chance to come off stuff because it's too late.
Do you believe in like spirits, like good, evil?
Yeah. I believe there's an angel. I believe there's a devil. I believe there's good spirits. There's bad spirits. I believe all of that stuff, man.
Any experiences yourself?
So my pilgrimage, when I went on my pilgrimage, I felt such a huge connection. That's like I said. I felt like taking Amrit, and I had a voice in my head, and I was speaking. It was like I was. Well, it wasn't even like I was speaking to Guru Gobind Singh Ji. He was
Really?
talking to me in my head, telling me what to do. And I used to have asthma. I still have got it, but at that time, it went away for a while. I threw my inhaler away and everything, like because he told me to. And it's weird. Like if I speak to some people and they'll go, "That's crazy, bro. What are you talking about?" Nah. I'm like, well, that's my experience. You know, it happened. And there was other things that happened while I was there, and I saw pictures and I saw stuff coming up in pictures, and it was unreal, man. It was unreal. But if you have a belief and you believe strongly in something, I guess that's the only way when your uh, certain chakras open and certain parts of your brain open up to it. If you keep those things shut down anyway, you're not going to believe and you're not going to see anything. You're not going to let anything in. You have to kind of be in that kind of vibe, in that kind of space to allow these things to come into your life.
Do you meditate?
I do, yeah, I do in the mornings. Not for long, maybe like a minute or so, but I've always found that quite hard to kind of sit. Well, so from 3 years ago, when I used to party, I used to find it very hard to sit in my own space. Right, I couldn't sit still. Like I'd go away for a gig and I'd be at a hotel and I'd find somewhere to go after the gig, even if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, because I just can't sit still. Now it's not like that. Now I'm content in my own company and I'm content in my own space. So I can sit back and just chill and be in a room with myself, order some room service, watch a bit of telly and go to sleep. I'm okay with that now. But I never used to be.
You do seem like you're 100 miles per hour sometimes. You're not like
Yeah.
ADHD or anything like that. Like
I don't know.
I mean, it's like that's an ability.
Yeah,
An
yeah.
ability where the school system says, that's a disability. You have this issue, that problem. But some of the most smartest people are on the spectrum, but very high functioning.
Yeah, yeah.
You're very fast.
You know what it is? I think it's because of the industry that I'm in as well, because I'm always on my toes. Like now, I've just done 3 gigs. I was in Saturday, I flew to Glasgow. Then we drove to Edinburgh. We did a gig. Sunday morning, flew to Denmark. Went there, did a gig. Yesterday afternoon, flew back to London. Did a gig last night in Heathrow. And then today, got up, showered, got things done, and then I'm here.
Yeah.
Right? So my life is 100 miles an hour.
Wow.
So sometimes I have to slow myself down.
How do you balance your personal life at home with wife and kids with your job, which is very highly demanded, traveling, obviously days away?
Yeah.
How do you balance work-life balance?
It's now become, it's become quite easy to balance now, because now I'm sober as well. I don't spend any longer than I need to wherever I go. I'm in and out, back, and when I'm here 100%. Like I'm involved, I'm present, and I'm there with my kids to do things that people in a 9 to 5 can't do. So that's the balance, because they know when, okay, daddy's going now, but he's going for work. I'm not going on a jolly for 3 days. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm going to make sure that everything's looked after. But when I'm back, guess what? I got a 3-day window.
Yeah.
Where I'm switching off, and I'm just with my kids.
Mhm.
And I can drop them off to school. I can pick them up. I can take them to their outside school activities. I
Yeah.
can spend time with my wife. I can do all of that.
Yeah.
You know, and then 2 days I might have to go again, but
Mhm.
it's cool
Mhm.
because that's the nature of my business. You know,
Absolutely.
so we're used to that.
Yes.
But when it was fueled with alcohol before, those 2 days I'd come back and I'd be bloody not. I wouldn't be present because I'm recovering
Mhm.
from the 3 days I've been away, and then I'm going again, and then that's where there's a problem.
Mhm.
And that's where obviously I had to kind of make changes, and
Yeah.
you know, fortunately, we've made those now. So
Absolutely.
Mm.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that part of your journey. I'm not going to go right to the beginning right now
Mhm,
because we will
mhm.
go there.
Cool.
But right now, I want to go to sort of, I wouldn't even call it the middle, but I would just call it the sort of stardom years.
Okay.
I want to talk about them sort of things. So
Mhm.
I want to talk about some of your singles, you know, let's
Yeah.
tell the people at home what you're about, what you're made of, bro. So in 2002, you made something with Rishi Rich.
Yep.
Is it Nahin Gina?
Najina. Yeah, yeah. So that was my step into the industry, man. That was the turning point. You know, that was me being given an opportunity by a music producer, a renowned music producer who I'd never heard of at the time,
Yeah.
because he did 10 albums before I met him, but they were Bollywood albums, right?
Right.
Bollywood remix albums with some of the biggest names in Bollywood, right? But I had no idea because I was never into Bollywood.
Mhm.
I was a proper Desi Bendu, born here, but
Yeah.
loved my roots, Desi roots music from Punjab.
Yeah.
And that's what I listened to. Kuldeep Manak and Surinder Shindar and people like that. I don't know if you know of them,
Come
but
on.
they're old school, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
But not everyone does,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
nowadays, like the youngsters now, they're all these Gen Zs. You play a Kuldeep Manak song, they can't even
They
understand what
don't
he's
know.
talking about,
Unless it's
right?
remixed and upbeated.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So, you know, Najina was, I'd been singing probably about 12, 13 years performing before I met Rishi.
Mhm.
And I was like 23 at the time I met him, got introduced through a mutual friend, went in the studio, got a meeting with him, and he asked me to sing my favorite song at that time. And even now, it was Put Sardarande by Bulwinder Safari, and I sang about, maybe got to about 40 seconds in the vocal booth, and he was like, "All right, cool, that's enough, come." And I was like, "Oh, damn, he didn't like it," you know. And called me out, and he was like, "Okay," he goes, "So you know what?" He goes, "I like your vibe, man." He goes, "I didn't expect that." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Like you sang this like really desi song."
What did you sing?
But Sardana de.
Can you give us a
Yeah,
little? Go
it's
on.
he goes, ਬਹੁਤੇ ਦੁਖੀਓ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਕੌਮ ਬਦਲੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਕੌਮਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਦਲੇਰ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਕੌਣ ਪੁੱਛਦਾ ਕਾਵਾਂ ਤੇ ਗਿੱਦੜਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੇ ਕੈਦ ਪਿੰਜਰੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ੇਰ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ
Right.
ਰਸਤੇ ਖੁੱਲੇ ਕਰ ਦੂੰ ਸਾਰੀ ਗਲੀ ਬਾਜ਼ਾਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਸ਼ੇਰਾਂ ਵਾਂਗੂ ਘੁੰਮਦੇ ਫਿਰਦੇ ਪੁੱਤ ਸਰਦਾਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਸ਼ੇਰਾਂ ਵਾਂਗੂ ਘੁੰਮਦੇ ਫਿਰਦੇ ਪੁੱਤ ਸਰਦਾਰਾਂ ਦੇ
Come on.
Thank you. So
Wicked,
yeah,
my
that was my
G.
favorite song, man. Thank you.
Some
My
of that
voice is a
king
bit
energy, bro.
my voice is a bit mash up at the moment. I've done 3 shows back to back, but that was my favorite song. But
Wow.
I sang that for him, and I was like, "Oh no, he didn't like it." And he was like, "No, I like your style. I like your vibe." He goes, "But I don't want you to do that vibe." I was like, "Okay, what do you mean?" And I said, "But this is what I do. I'm like, I sing like dissy stuff, right?" And he's like, "Nah." He goes, "I want you to sing on my album." And I was like, "Oh wow, okay." He said, "I'm got an album coming out, and I want you to do a song for that for me. And if you're up for it." And I was like, "Yeah, man, I'd love to." He goes, "But I want you to do pop Punjabi music."
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
What was your understanding of that?
Um, I wouldn't. I actually asked him. I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Like, you know, like very like kind of Taz kind of vibe, kind of you know, very pop kind of music." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Yeah, I've never done that kind of stuff." And he's like, "But I think you can."
Mhm.
I was like, he goes, "You've got the look." Like, you know, I was young Southall boy, and you know, I think I went to see him in my tracksuit, and he was like, "Yeah." He goes, I like that vibe, and I think you'll be good at
Mhm.
pop music rather than that dissy stuff." He goes, "And to be fair, if you do dissy stuff at that time, Desi music was quite big, and he said everyone's doing Desi stuff, right?
Mhm.
All the old singers are like quite big right now. They're big with their